sometimes feelings are like that. It's like they look like they're going to be like, wow, and loud and the fire and blah. And so maybe people avoid going to feeling those feelings when if we just maybe looked over the rock and be like, oh, I'm a little sad or I'm a little scared, or it would give its proper place to having a feeling as opposed to, this giant thing that could eat us alive.
First thing is to realize that my attention is a whole body experience. It's not just my visual. Shifting your attention, when we talk about habit, it's something that we don't have to give much of our consciousness to. Like brushing my teeth and, the things that we do that are habits. But what I find with loop of awareness is that it increases my choicefulness. So I'm actually able to make a choice, especially in the middle of something that's challenging. I can call on that ability.
Hello, my Katie.
Hello, Sophie. I was just appreciating that when I look at you, I experience curiosity and wonder and that things are possible. Now, I just have this kind of blooming when I look at you.
Sure, make me cry as we're about to start chatting. Of course. It's funny because I have a text from you. I don't know if you're going to remember, but years ago, I was not having a great day. And I sent you a text and I said, can you tell me a couple of reasons why you love me? And you responded this thing that was like, do you have a whole day? Like, it was just like a lieu of things. And I refer to it all the time.
I'm so glad. Oh, yeah. That's wonderful. Well, I do think it's one of that appreciation is one of the most effective and most underutilized practices that we have. I mean, genuine appreciation really makes, connection makes everything bloom. And so I'm so delighted.
And how powerful when you think of it that I can literally think of that text or even think of you because of our practice. It is a practice, but also very genuine, obviously, that even without the presence of the person, we can feel the upliftment. And that's incredibly powerful.
Yes. And I think it's part of what we're exploring is that we can be connected over the ethers, so that connection really has to do with where we're placing our attention. The genuineness of letting feelings flow through, and that it's becoming much more palpable to me that I will think of somebody. I was thinking of somebody yesterday, and she was literally thinking of me at the same time. I was having an image of synchronized swimming at the very same time I sent her this text. She had been watching synchronized swimming. So
my God. That becomes a little spooky in a good way, of course.
Yeah, spooky, like we can have good spooky.
Yeah. And before we launched into our conversation officially, the other thing that strikes me is when we worry about someone, it probably also goes in the ethers. Like when I hear something's happening, like even, when I hear some friend is going to surgery, like something that's happening, I make myself watch them after the surgery, walking joyfully on the beach, I really redirect my attention, because if we can uplift each other from the appreciation, we also can affect each other if we start, zapping energy in work.
That's so powerful. I so appreciate you mentioning that, because we think if someone is worrying or something, we tend to go on down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Rather than going, oh, wait a minute here. So when that's resolved, you'll have this open space and visualizing that and sending that to others, I think is very powerful. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah. It reminds me too, as, I don't know if you know that because we've never been on a plane together, but I get vertigo, pretty deep vertigo. Well, that's what I'm about to tell you. I used to. It would be part of my planning of a trip. I would have to land a couple of days earlier if I was going on a consulting gig somewhere, because I knew my body could be doing something funny. But someone had mentioned to me to visualize myself walking out of the plane and saying, this could not have gone better.
Uh-huh.
Like with the energy of like genuine, you know, how we do the I wonder, you know?
Well, yes, but also I see you touching yourself. I see you breathing. So you're having a whole body experience of it.
Exactly. Well, do you want to know that from that time that I've done it now, maybe 5 years, so not as many flights because of COVID in the middle, of course, but maybe one of those flights, I got a little something started, a little, you know, I felt
I
the,
see. Uh-huh.
and I said to myself, oh, I'm just, oh my God, when I walk out of this plane, I'm going to, and it lifted. It lifted, and not once have I had vertigo since I've been doing this practice. So this is no joke. Like this is powerful. This is no
This is
woo-woo.
very powerful. And I'm going to just add into that since we're on travel. I just want to add in because you got vertigo, but I was terrified of flying.
Huh.
You probably didn't know this because, you know, when I met Gay, I would spend flights. I remember taking one flight where I had my head between my knees the whole time. And I would lean down occasionally and say, how are you doing?
Oh my God! You and I should travel together. We would just each other, hold each other's, pat each other.
So Gay gave me a mantra, which I want to share with people because I know lots of people have fear of flying. They may not talk about it, but just for all of those, you know who you are.
Know who you are. Uh-huh.
He gave me this mantra that has been so powerful for me. It is, I'm willing to have any lessons that I might learn by this plane's crashing from wisdom rather than experience. And I put my hands, and when I'm in I put my hands on the plane and I breathe a little bit and I repeat this mantra often when we're taking off. And it's pretty much solved my fear of flying. You know, it took a little while, but you know, the way that we talk to ourselves and also the way that we can shift our attention from going on down that, oh my God, that we tend to get, you know, sucked into. It's very powerful.
And that, so as we on this, there is a scene in a movie, Mulan. It's a cartoon, you know, animated.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know the story, but it's a woman whose father has to go to war because he doesn't have a son. And she decides to pretend she's a man in China so she can actually go to war instead of his father, who's her father, who's older. And so she puts, you know, the whole garb of a man and goes. But the ancestors send to her this little cricket, like little salamander, like a little guy. And he's very cute, you know. Basically all of his characters that are kind of like sidekicks, you know, very, very cute little guy. Mushu is his name. And so Mushu is supposed to like go after her and with her and arrange things before she arrives and make sure the shower's empty when she, you know, just like this whole thing so that nobody will find out that she's indeed not a girl.
Uh-huh.
And so that she is a girl. And so, but the scene that stuck with me so profoundly is one day she's in her tent. She's never met this thing because the Mushu is acting on her behalf, but she doesn't know that it's there. And so Mushu is behind this little rock and he has a fire, like he's lighting this little fire and he's like in front of the fire and he's using this megaphone and this like big thing. And Mulan is like, whoa, like, what is this? And like, she's terrified. And then she's like, wait, what is this? This tent is so small. Like, how big can this thing be? And so she like, you know, carefully walks towards the rock and she looks over the rock and she sees this little guy who's just like using fire and things to make himself so big. And I'll tell you why it's related because you may not actually see the direct connections here. But I feel like sometimes feelings are like that. It's like they look like they're going to be like, wow, and loud and the fire and blah. And so maybe people avoid going to feeling those feelings when if we just maybe looked over the rock and be like, oh, I'm a little sad or I'm a little scared or that maybe it you know, it would give its proper place to having a feeling as opposed to, you know, this giant thing that could eat us alive.
I was just as you were saying that, giving that example, I was seeing the scene in The Wizard of Oz when the Toto, the dog, goes and pulls back the curtain. Yes. And all of this roaring is being created by a little guy. Yes. You know, behind the curtain. And one of the things just I love about that scene is that animals in mythology and like in Jungian psychology, animals are about feeling and the carriers of feeling. And so when when the feeling is revealed, then everybody gets mad at him. Like Dorothy says, "Oh, you're a very bad man." And he said, "No, I'm a very good man. I'm just a very bad wizard." So it's like the way I've been using it. So it's this adjustment of, everybody had been quaking in front of the big Wizard of Oz, and it's just a little guy, behind the curtain. And, I think that the whole being able to be with our feelings and give them attention, then we can shift our attention rather than getting sucked into that whirlpool.
Yeah, like I was talking to this client friend yesterday who's grieving. His wife has passed, and we've been talking, in and out when he's available. And on the middle of the call, he got really inhabited by so much feelings. Like I could feel his energy bubbling, of sadness,
Yes.
really, not bubbling maybe, but just activated, right? And he was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like he was completely ignoring what he was
Right.
feeling. But I was
Right.
seeing his body, his collapse of the shoulders, and he was just really. And so I paused and I said, how about we spend a moment with this feeling you're having? And he fought it for a second. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm fine.
I'm fine. Yeah.
Fine. The famous fine. But then he, I invited and, lovingly just was present with it. Maybe as a parent would be when we were kids and we were, I don't know, learn to be scared of our feelings, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But being present with him, he ended up like pausing and being with himself and being sad and, yeah, I'm going to miss her. Yeah, we were going to build this house. He said, yeah, wow, I'm sad. And that was it. Like he just like, we went on to like, and it was genuine. It wasn't, like he just surfed over it. It was very
Right.
genuine.
Well,
and it took seconds.
Even as you're describing it, what I hear was that he was with it. He beed with it.
Yeah.
And he let himself have the imagery. So he had a whole body experience. He had the emotions. He was remembering an image. I'm sure he was hearing himself talking to his wife, and and so the whole context, he let himself be in it, and instead of resisting it or pushing it away. And that move is such a gift because it. I've never seen any feeling, and I've worked with people who've had their whole family die in the Holocaust and got trapped in the basement, and bombs are coming down. And I've never seen a feeling last more than 20 minutes, even a huge, when people let themselves be with it. And so I love that he was able to let his connection with you. I think that's also really important because most of us, when we're in a feeling, we tend to feel like we're back in a cave all by ourselves. And so the gift of your presence and your connection gave him that, like the friend that you're sitting next to. Mm-hmm. And he's having the feeling and you're not trying to do anything with him, but you're lending your presence and your connection to surround him. I think that's so powerful for us because we think we're supposed to fix it or do something, but very often the only thing that somebody needs is your presence.
Well, that's profound. And also, as you saying what you were just saying, this idea that the avoiding of it is what's making it become bigger and bigger and bigger. Like if you actually just sit in the thing, and even 20 minutes, I thought you were going to say 20 seconds, because...
Well, 20 minutes seems like a long time, but most people think their feelings are just going to go on forever.
Exactly. And the truth is, maybe it comes back. There are waves, there might be another, sometimes I watch something on TV that does remind me of something that always has triggered a little sadness. And so it's not like it's gone.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be gone. I don't laugh all day long.
With it. It's just like, here it comes. And what I share with people is all you need to do is ride the wave.
Yes.
So it's really like emotional surfing, which is not that you're with it in motion. So for me, that's also an element which allows us to shift, is that we're not trying to freeze it. Often our thoughts will freeze it. We'll pounce on it. And, it was reminding me of a cat that we had who didn't know how to take care of her kittens because she had been abandoned when she was 4 weeks old. And so when she had kittens, she didn't know how to handle them. So she would pounce on them to try to keep them from going. And of course, they're not going to, they're not going to stop moving. And I think our feelings are the same way, that as we let ourselves involve our whole body with it, then there's that sense of, we ride the wave, and then we have the energy at the end of the wave. That's what I've noticed, is when I let myself be with something, even it might be, sad, or I feel angry about it, when I ride the wave, then, I have the deliciousness of riding the energy and letting it take me to the next place.
I was just watching a video of a friend who was involved in the league for surfers. And I literally had that thought, like the way they go into that wave, there's no resistance. There's just this getting on it, staying on it. It's just, it has this, you could feel that the energy is not, I need to not do this or resist that or put it away.
Right, or I'm riding this wave,
It's so fluid. It is so fluid that I think that could be a really good visual, like a metaphor of it. It's just, which is also what happens on the plane. We were just talking about that too for me, like the way you were describing this mantra. It's not, again, you're not fighting it. You're just kind of, you're sitting in it but you do deliberately redirect your thoughts. Like there's something.
Exactly. And I'm redirecting my attention. And I think people forget that we can do that. And how powerful that move is, that I simply am changing my focus. And we think that the focus has me, because with all of the stuff we have coming at us now, particularly visually, it's designed that we can't look away from it. So, shifting your focus is a skill that, I practice all the time, and I teach people how to do that. And the first thing is to realize that my attention is a whole body experience. It's not just my visual. It's that, how am I focusing my whole body on that? And when I shift my body, then I can shift my attention.
I was reading about a friend of mine on Instagram, actually, yesterday, was going through, he called it mayhem at the airport. So can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
And he was delayed for something that was going to end up being like 6 or 8 hours. And so he called his office. He was in Denver. He called his office and asked if they could find a place to go volunteer, because he was basically sitting there and was not going to do anything for 6 hours. So could he be redirected? And he described the experience of being one of annoyance and frustration and woomy and how could they direct, blah, 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 blah. And then you see the next image on Instagram is him playing the guitar for these people in the hospital and just doing this incredible thing. And he speaks very directly to how it looks like he's doing it for them, and there's definitely a sharing, but really he completely redirected his attention.
Yes.
By being generous and being of service to someone else.
Oh, I love that. That's such a wonderful example of turning your attention to also connecting. So the be, play, love, he was doing that in action. He beed with the annoyance, and but then he started to play with it. And I think that what he was describing is, how can what's a loving thing that I can do right now? What's an opening that I can participate with right now? I love that, the being of service. But the other thing is, he was sharing his genius.
Yes.
So he was sharing something that was easy for him.
Yes.
And each of us have something like, so for me, one of the things I do when I'm in the airport, especially when things are, unexpected, and it's been mayhem quite a bit, recently in the travel world. And what I do is I look around, particularly for kids, who are kind of squirming, or they, and I will just play with them. I sort of toss, they'll do something, and I'll take it and I'll exaggerate it, and then I'll do it back. And, it may be for only 30 seconds or a minute, but they've shifted then and I've shifted. And it's a way of recognizing, even in the midst of mayhem, we can still connect and can play. We can have that caring connection with each other. But underlying that, I'm really hearing the possibility of shifting your attention.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do we come to this place? Is it really a skill? Is it a habit? Is it Do we need to muscle up to learn how to do that?
Oh, that's so wonderful. All the skill and the muscling up. So my sense is that it is a practice. What I call loop of awareness is really a practice about how to learn to shift your attention.
Mm.
And at first I call it lurch of attention, because we don't do it like, harmoniously, like we just shift our attention. It's usually I get caught like, oh my God. And then suddenly go, oh, wait a minute, I'm not breathing. And then I come back to me and I take a breath. And as I practice that, I learn how to shift my attention much more readily. And one of the things I was just realizing from the practice of shifting my attention, I realized that I don't do it with my mind anymore. I'm doing it, and it's hard to kind of describe it, but I do it with my consciousness. And one of the outcomes is that my peripheral vision has really expanded. And I've been in the kitchen. I was in the kitchen the other day, and one of the cats had started to knock something off the counter. And my hand just reached out and got it.
Oh, you were more, it wasn't a thought.
It wasn't a thought. I just reached out and got it. And it had no adrenaline in it. I just reached out and got it. It was sort of like grabbing the fly. And I realized, because I'd never done that before, because it was always like, I would go, oh my God. And I'd get the adrenaline involved. But from the practice of simply shifting my attention, my scope of my attention has expanded. But it was just so easy to just reach out and grab it. So for about the last year, when nothing has fallen on the floor and broken, because I'm able to respond to my circumstances much more effectively and quickly. So I would say that the shifting your attention, when we talk about habit, it's something that we don't have to give much of our consciousness to. Like brushing my teeth and, the things that we do that are habits. But what I find with loop of awareness is that it increases my choicefulness. So I'm actually able to make a choice, especially in the middle of something that's challenging. I can call on that ability to, okay, what else is going on here? Where are the possibilities? What's an opening? Where might I join with somebody else to create a solution to this? And I've had experiences, I'm sure everybody has, in travel. Like things are delayed. I remember being in a line that, was this just horrendously long line. And people had driven, I think it was in Chicago, people had driven in from New York to catch a plane in Chicago because things were so fouled up. In New York, there was nothing. And so we got into this conversation, and we had this, I got their whole life history while we were standing in line, but there was this sense of resourcefulness, and that we're all in it together, and that sense of caring that gets communicated.
The other thing that I'm hearing in what you're saying is there's an intention. Like when you start playing with the kid at the airport, my sense is you are taking charge of the environment in some ways. Like you have an intention to have a better experience. Like I think it's funny, lately my life is very much about, everything boils down to self-love to some degree. The way we eat, the way we show up, the way we work, the way we write. It's like the way we show up at the airport. Like if your intention is to have a good experience, then you look around and it's like almost identifying maybe what does not make it a good experience and somehow transcend it or to transmute it in a way that it becomes a good experience. But do you think it starts with a deep intention? Because if I have an intention to be still committed to drama and then I'm not going to look for things as creatively, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think that our curiosity, I think we can, even if I'm in a funk, I can shift to curiosity. To me, that is the big shift, which is, and I often use the to open up that shift between critical brain and wonder brain. The what else might we do here? Or even, what else is going on?
Mhm.
So, because I'm in my funk and the whole world is funky, but if I lift that off just to shift into, I'm curious about what else is going on. Then then connecting with others, then I begin to not only be a beacon of curiosity, but I also get what I call osmosing.
Mhm.
I can, I see something and go, oh, I just love the way that little girl is playing with her teddy bear. I'm going to just osmose that quality of being with a companion who really loves me and we're doing this adventure together and we don't know what's going to happen. And so I'm connecting. We tend to, I think, stay very intellectual and logical and
Mhm.
what do I have to do to make this change?
Mhm.
Rather than if I enter into the flow of what's happening, I'm in the play. And then things are going to shift anyway. But I get to shift with them rather than still being in my funk.
Mhm. Mhm. It's funny how we of course the show is called Be Play Love, and I know why, but there often are moments where I'm like, there's a deeper level here even,
Uh,
because it is in the being with myself. Like what I just called self-love has to do with I'm just gonna be with this human over
mhm.
here that's just gorgeous, awesome human.
Yeah.
And from there, I play and maybe I interact with this child, or maybe I become very creative to try to solve something, which is play. And then, this feeling of love that takes us over again. There really is, it's almost like a recipe to.
It is a recipe. And as you were saying that, I was also thinking about adding in, and sometimes I might actually have the feeling, I might demonstrate the feeling. So in recently, for whatever reason, I've been crying more.
Mhm.
And so things well up. And when that happens, I just cry.
Mhm.
So wherever I am, I just let that happen, that flow happen. And for me, that puts me back into timing, the right alignment. I was thinking too of like taking off on a surfboard, which I have never done, but
The
I was
idea of
really
it.
good. I was a really good body surfer though. So,
Oh,
like getting ready to catch the wave, because I learned how to body surf before there were little boogie
first.
boards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really, knew how to do it. And there's this whole thing about getting ready for the wave. And if I'm involved in, oh, I couldn't possibly go down, I missed the wave.
Mhm.
So the actually being willing to get on the ride,
Mhm.
I find that the getting curious and the go and letting myself feel what I'm feeling, being with what I'm feeling, is allows me to shift. Whereas if I resist it, it can go on. I've just seen people hang on to the same feeling for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it can be just poof,
Yeah.
integrated into your whole body aliveness when you go with
Yeah.
it.
It reminds me, I don't know why we have so many metaphors with water today, but it reminds me of people that are playing at the beach and they hold this big ball, the beach balloons,
Yes.
and then they're holding that underwater. And it's such effort. It's like to maintain, right? It's like this thing that just oh my God. And then you let go and you're like, oh, I can use my hands. I can be free and that's really beautiful. As we're wrapping up, I'm actually having a feeling that
Mm.
we are wrapping up for this season, and that I'm a little sad because we are going to talk a little less for a few weeks, and then we'll be back. But
And then we'll
I'm
be back.
experiencing this little moment of I really like these twice a week moments with you.
Oh, I do too. I just so that and the underlying feeling is like this underground river. There's this flow, and entering into this flow and the nourishment of that flow is really been a treasure for me. And I just love being able to share it with people. Here's one way to really increase your experience of being with and loving whatever is, and being able to play with even sadness and anger and turn them into creative play.
Mm, And I can call you all summer if I want to.
That's right. That's right. You can text me too.
Exactly. Oh, this is delicious. I love you. Anything
I
you want
love
to say
you.
to wrap us up?
Well, I'm grateful. I'm
Mhm.
so happy that this is an experiment. We've been creating this experiment with each other, and what would happen if we just get together and see what we're wanting to co-create. And I'm feeling very pleased with, my little evaluators going, I think we did a pretty good job.
I just saw a little bit of your mother there. I don't know why. A little bit of just like,
yes, I'm trying on my judgmental, but in a good way, like, oh, this experiment, I want to invite everybody to experiment with particularly more connection and more joy in your life.
Thank you for that. I love you.
Love you.